Ask me, plenty of questions too, right? Not a problem there. Not
Okay.
worried about questions. Like, how did you turn into what you are today? Like, I mean, obviously you weren't always who you are today. You weren't always, having your Antifa flag in the back and, you know, taking we'll just call them supplements, you know, you weren't always this person. So, like, where did that journey begin?
Um, I don't know. When I was fucking a kid, I guess.
Well, that's pretty general. I mean, I'm looking for something a little more specific here. I mean, when I was a kid, I mean, what happened in your childhood then that, would have, steered you down this path? I mean, I got to assume, I mean, again, this is just me assuming, but, you probably had like a fairly normal childhood. Maybe you went to church, maybe you didn't. I don't know.
I
But
did not.
normalcy. I mean, you get where I'm going as far as normalcy goes, right? Like
I don't know. I feel like my childhood was somewhat irregular.
at what age? I mean, are we talking like really early? I mean, like I'll just give you a frame of reference here as far as what I mean by normal. Like my childhood, I had siblings, a mom and a dad. We went to church, not all the time, but fairly regularly. Wasn't like super religious or anything, but we went. Like I played sports growing up, you know, the typical story basically for a young boy, right?
Okay.
So that's where I'm trying to go is like where were you steered to like this different path, like the path that you're on today?
I was poor when I grew up. I had no siblings. I had a half brother, but we had different parents, so we didn't live together or anything. So I saw him every once in a while, but I didn't live with him. Single mom. You guessed that one correctly
Yeah,
earlier.
yeah, yeah. That I
You
kind of
got
figured
that
that
one.
one, right?
Bingo. Right. Uh, um. Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I went to a small school.
Like a small
Uh,
town.
Small town. That's correct.
Now,
Small
now,
town.
now, here you go. In school, like, well, let me ask you. I mean, is it okay to ask how old you are? I mean, you don't have to. I
I'm
guess be
24.
24. Okay, that's what I kind of figured too. I was telling the other guys that I talked to, I was guessing 23. So, yeah,
You're close. You're
right, right.
close.
I think I'm hitting a little closer to home on some of these things than I was getting credit for earlier. But
That
yeah,
may be true. That may
right.
be true. I'll give you that one.
So, like in school, I mean, like again, when you were young, I mean, did you always like display this kind of behavior when you were younger? I mean, like, when did you start displaying like this?
What is this kind?
Alternate lifestyle. Let's use the term alternate lifestyle.
What is an alternate lifestyle? What are you talking about?
What am I talking? I feel that was a bit of a disingenuous question there. Um,
Well, I don't know what you mean. I really have no idea.
well, how does the term alternative lifestyle typically get used?
I don't know.
You don't know.
Like,
You don't know.
what is alternative? Like, if anyone likes, I don't know, the color green when blue is in fashion, I don't know. Like, what are you talking about? Like in reference to?
In reference to sexual orientation, gender identity.
I don't know. I kind of thought I was gay or whatever when I was in like second, third grade. Um, but I never expressed that. I
Okay,
didn't express
okay,
anything.
fair, fair. So you thought it in like second or third grade, but you didn't express it. That's
Yes,
fair.
that's correct.
Now, what made you think it at such a young age? Like second grade is pretty young.
I don't know. It just happens. Like I don't know. You ever have a crush on someone around that time? I don't know. Maybe, maybe not.
In the second grade. I mean, well, again, I mean, human behavior throughout history would, statistically speaking, if you're going to have a crush on someone at that young of an age, it would have been the opposite sex or gender, I guess, whatever you want to call it, right?
Well, that's where we're getting at here.
Well, I'm just asking, I'm not like trying to attack your character or
I know.
something
I'm
here.
just saying. Like you asked for when did I think this originally, maybe second or third grade. I don't know. I don't really remember. It's not something they have a formalized thought on. This is where I began. I don't know. It's just kind of things happen
Okay,
and you just
okay,
go,
okay. Fair enough. Fair enough. I won't keep pressing the issue. Right? Like,
okay.
yeah, you just decided in second grade that you know had this attraction, but you didn't act on it. You're right. Fair enough. Um, Now, obviously, at that age, you weren't, like as politically active or, informed or whatever, right? But what kind of outlook on life did you have at that point in your life? I mean, second grade. I
When I,
mean, we can
when
go a
I
little
was
further ahead, like say,
like 10,
yeah,
like
like 10. Yeah, like we'll say like middle school. Did you start like acting on any of the feelings you were having in middle school, or were you still
no.
no? So how did you look at the world at that point? Were you still like fairly optimistic? Because you seem to be, nowadays fairly doom and gloom.
No, I've been depressed probably as a lot since I was 13 or so. I was
Okay.
really poor. We wouldn't have food most days. It was very rough stuff. So I was very depressed at that point. But as far as doom and gloom nowadays, I'm not really doom and gloom. I think the world might end, but that's not my personal outlook.
Well, it's the whole anarchy thing.
That's
I mean
not
you
doom
are
and
an
gloom.
anarchist, right?
Sure, yeah.
Okay, right. I mean, I thought that went without saying, but I figured I may as well ask.
There you go.
Right. So what led you more down the anarchy path there to like outright declare yourself an anarchist essentially?
Um, I'm a huge fan of free speech. I don't like government cover-ups, censorship, overreach, abuses. I dealt with cops a lot as a kid.
How did you deal
Nine
with
times out of
cops? How did you deal with
oh,
cops as a kid?
just we were very poor, so we went through evictions, that kind of stuff. They were always very rude, very obnoxious, and even when we got an extension, things like that, they would still be very obnoxious. They would hound my family, that kind of stuff. And we lived in a small town, so it was just like, okay, whatever. Um, so that was like when I was around like, starting when I was like 10, 11, 12, around that range. Was where we started to get very poor as opposed to regular poor, right?
Very poor. Okay.
Um, where we were dealing with housing issues. And so
Right.
again, I just didn't like cops from the onset.
Okay.
So as
Well,
far as
cops are
being an
showing up to
anarchist,
kick
I
you
don't like
out
authority.
cops are showing up to kick you out of your house as a kid because the bills aren't getting paid. I can see as a child having a resentment towards police because they're showing up. You're looking at them possibly as they're the ones who are forcing us to leave when in reality you're being forced to leave because of not paying your rent, right? But I mean,
Sure.
poorness is poorness, sure. I can see where some resentment towards cops would come from there, but I don't know about in the long run. I mean, I don't see why getting kicked out of your house would make you have a resentment for police, especially.
Well, you asked about when it started. I can
Well,
give you
fair
a lot
enough.
more
Fair
examples.
enough. Fair enough. Yeah, go on.
I mean, I got swatted before, and the police were very belligerent, and they abused my mother quite significantly and myself. Um, and
I
that
actually
was
did catch a
years
little bit of
ago.
that video, a little bit. Like I haven't seen
A little
much of
bit.
your content,
Okay.
honestly, but like I searched your name and I seen that, and yeah, I was going to actually ask you about that. I'm glad you touched on it because you said it was Adam Waffen that did it,
Yeah.
and it
Or someone
really
connected
reads
to
more like
Adam.
a 4chan thing to me than some kind of weird right wing siege guys.
I don't know. All I know is what's reported on the media.
Well, I
So
mean,
I just
do
read
you
the
believe the
documents.
media? Do you believe the
I
media?
I if it's in the documents and I see it in the documents and I see 3, 4, 5 different articles cite the same
I mean, here
thing,
you go. The media says the Proud Boys are white supremacists. Do you think they're white supremacists?
I absolutely think they're white
Really?
supremacists.
Even though their leader's a black Hispanic guy?
Yeah.
So how would you? What kind of white supremacist do you really think has a black Hispanic guy as their leader?
There are always people that are willing to sell out their own people
Could
for
we
like
call that
organized
extremely
crime.
well? Well, as their leader, okay, I'll give you that. Yeah, race traders. Yeah, there's plenty of race traders. Like, here you go. I could flip that same coin, and I could call you a race trader. But I
Sure,
mean,
damn fucking right, buddy.
right. I mean, you just admitted to it for.
I
I didn't
I
really
did
even
not
have to.
admit. I clarified that I am indeed a race trader. What you said, that claim is completely accurate, wholeheartedly, 100% correct.
Okay, okay. So I mean, are you in a position of leadership within the race that you're helping out?
No,
Do you know of any people that are in positions of leadership within the race that Antifa is helping out
I don't. First
that
of
are
all, what is a race?
non-blacks?
What is that? Wait, okay. So Antifa's helping out a
Well,
race?
Black Lives Matter, right? I mean,
Sure, right?
they're like comrades, right? Allies. I mean,
Hmm.
that's fair. I mean, I'm not like
So
putting words in anybody's mouth there or
yeah,
making
no, I'm just trying
assumptions.
to make sure I understand this. So Antifa's helping out the black people,
Well, the
and you're
Black Lives
asking
Matter
me,
movement. It's not the black
sure.
people. It's Black
Okay.
Lives
Well, you said
Matter.
the race, so that I would
Well,
assume
the
that
Black
meant
Lives
everybody.
Matter organization is a racially based organization.
Well, it's not racially based. It's white
Antifa
people.
isn't a racially based organization.
Well, and they're both not really organizations. There's
Right,
organizations that
No
are
structured
under.
leadership, right? The whole,
Yes.
I know the excuse behind it, right?
Well, if you excuse,
Well, here you go.
clarification.
What
Yes.
white groups would you call a organization then?
Say that again.
What kind of white supremacist groups? Or is Adam Waffen an organization?
I'm not sure. I've not looked into it too much, to be honest with you.
Okay, so you're just throwing a name out there, but you're not sure if it's an organization either. Do you feel it's unfair that the media throws out Antifa's name all the time, even though they're not an organization?
I have a lot of criticisms with the media when it comes to
Well,
how
that's not
they
what
cover
I asked.
protests.
I
Yeah, I
asked
mean, I
about
do think
that.
it's a problem.
So you throwing Adam Waffen out there, but they're not an organization. You can
I
do
don't
that.
know what they are.
What?
All
Right?
I
You
know is
just
what
right,
I'm seeing in court documents.
right. Well,
If the courtrooms are wrong and the judges are wrong and the lawyers are wrong or whatever, hey, that's on them as far as I'm concerned.
how many people have to be a part of a? We'll call it a movement. Then is Antifa a movement then, or is it just an idea?
You
Which
could say it's a
should I
movement.
use the term idea or movement?
I idea is kind of basic. It's a
Right.
philosophy.
That's the Joe Biden line. That was pretty weak.
Right,
Right.
yeah.
Terrible line. So movement's better.
I movement, philosophy,
Okay.
that kind of thing.
How many
Like you could
people do
be
you
a
think?
libertarian without being in the Libertarian Party. Like
Uh,
there may be organizations called Black Lives Matter.
okay.
That doesn't mean that if you think that Black Lives Matter, you're automatically affiliated with them.
So is it the Antifa party then? Can we call it party?
Well, it's not a party because there's no
Well, it's got a
organized
lot of people
structure.
that follow that movement. A lot of people involved in that movement.
Well,
Just like
what is a party? Like a
you
political
said the
party?
Libertarian Party, but then you gave these examples of people who aren't active libertarians, like they're not
Well,
street
my
level
example is just like
protesters, but
you
they're
can
still
you can
libertarians,
have a
right?
political ideology without being a member of an organization.
Well, again, you used this example about libertarians
Yeah,
being the Libertarian Party. Okay. So they don't have to be active, members street protesting, but they're still, libertarians, right? So
yeah, they're anti-fascist.
you could say the same thing about Antifa, right? There's plenty of is that fair?
Sure.
Okay, so would Antifa be a party then? No? Still not a
I don't
party?
think it, I don't think so because that implies that they
Well, you
have
do
like
have a candidate running in Portland, so I mean that would kind of make it a party, don't you think?
no, no, because I
No.
don't think this. I'm pretty sure she's running as like an independent or a Democrat or
Well,
something.
yeah,
I
that's
don't know.
because
I don't live in
she's right,
Portland.
right. So, do you support this woman running?
I don't live in Portland.
Well, have
If
you not
there is
looked
an
into it?
anti-fascist that's running for mayor in Portland, I know she's polling ahead. If
Okay.
an
Is Tim
anti-fascist is
Wheeler a
mayor, that's
fascist?
awesome.
Is
Is
Tim
Ted
Wheeler a
Wheeler?
fascist?
I don't live in Portland. I don't have nearly
You
enough
don't know.
information to make any
Is
sort of
Donald Trump
declaration
a
on it.
fascist?
I would say he at least desires to be, at the very least.
Desires to be. Why do you think he desires to be a fascist?
Uh, Just the way he talks about people, like the whole
Talks
like
about
thing
people.
recently with the yes, talks about people, right? You're doing the thing.
Like who?
So the recent thing with the motorcade where he like waves at like a crowd of like maybe 100 people,
Okay.
that kind of stuff. The whole like these are my people, like like I think there was this one point at a like a rally where he was calling people his fans. That was really funny. Like he's
So
just
other politicians don't do these kind of things, like wave at people. And like, you don't think Obama ever waved at people when he drove by
well,
when he
there's
was
a
president?
context when you this wave that you're doing is
I
during
mean,
when you're apparently supposedly at a hospital and you have an infectious
I'm just
disease
looking
that
for
you're
better
exposed to.
examples. Like these, I feel
I'm
these are
just
really
writing
weak
off like
examples.
recent stuff. I'm like in the last month or so. I'm just giving you recent
I mean, I
stuff. You
feel
want to
like
go
these are
further
really
back?
weak examples, though.
I'm just again, this is like stuff that happens weeks ago, a month ago. Like
I mean, this sounds like feeling stuff, honestly. It really does. There's no
okay, it's
facts
feeling
here.
stuff, right?
It
Yeah, there's no
really
fact,
is.
right?
Well, I mean, it's true. I mean, I'm not lying about anything.
Well, like I said, like, am I saying he is a fascist? Maybe, but I'm saying he personally desires to be a fascist, and what that
Well, you
is
can't tell what he
a
personally
speculation.
desires.
Yeah, exactly.
I
It's a
mean,
speculation based on their behaviors. So I'm describing their behaviors.
but these behaviors is describing, I mean, all politicians do this kind of stuff. They wave at people. I mean,
Right.
I
Wait,
could
they
point at
all
left
wait
wing
after.
politicians that say some pretty nutty stuff. And I mean, I'm not calling them fascist.
Okay, but again, I can give you more
Okay,
examples
go
if you
on.
want.
Right. Yes, I
Like
do.
him saying he won the popular vote and that California cheated in 2016. That's definitely having a fascist tendency, undermining democracy, for example. Him saying that mail-in ballots are fraudulent, right? And saying that the Democrats are going to try to rig the election. That's totally setting up legalized court battles, which is why he's pushing through the Supreme Court nominee. There's many routes that he is opening himself up for. Look at the debate where he tells a group like the Proud Boys to stand back and stand by, and then doubles down shortly afterward and says that people need to go and become poll watchers, right? And he's signaling that they should do it in these swing states like Wisconsin, maybe swing districts. That's all very easy to find out if you just look it up or have a basic Slack
Now, here you
channel.
go. Now, since you bring up the Proud Boys, are they burning anything? Are they looting anything? Are they? Have they been? Now, let's be honest. Proud Boys get violent, but they get violent when violence is brought upon them.
Right.
That's
Okay.
how it
So like,
works. Antifa
oh,
attacks the Proud Boys, and the Proud
right.
Boys attack back.
So the Proud Boys going into a city they don't live in and bear macing people.
Well, Antifa
Now
is going into
that's
cities
the
they don't live
prologue.
in and
No,
burning
no.
and
Well,
looting.
right. Okay. But you're saying that one's good and one's not good. That's what you're trying to
No,
say.
no.
Like if
What
you're
I'm
going to say
saying
both are
is,
bad,
no. What I'm saying is that if these other people are showing up to defend other people, like like that's what the Proud Boys are mostly known for, is showing up to defend like right wing protest groups like Patriot Prayer and stuff like that.
sure, yeah.
Right, because the Antifa shows up and tries to bully these guys who are a little weaker, and then the Proud Boys show up, and Antifa really doesn't have much muscle as far as that goes.
Sure.
So
I
I mean
appreciate the
that's
editorial.
what most of what the Proud Boys do. I mean, let's be honest. I mean,
Well, I mean, it
according to you, they're
recently
white
resulted in
supremacists,
people
though.
dying. Like it's resulted in people dying recently.
Oh yeah,
And
that's right. That's
becoming a
right.
huge problem.
Left wing riots have resulted in people dying. Absolutely.
I wouldn't say riots are left wing or right wing.
You don't think so? So there's right wingers out there doing that stuff right now.
Absolutely.
Where?
Look at people like Kyle Rittenhouse.
Kyle Rittenhouse.
Shot
So
three
so he
people,
was
killed
Kyle
one.
Rittenhouse a rioter?
He went to a riot,
Was
had
he a
a gun
rioter?
that he was
Was he a
not
rioter?
authorized
That's
to
what
have.
I asked you.
Yes. Under the
Yes,
definition of what
he
a
was a
riot would be,
rioter.
he had a gun that he was not legally able to carry. He was
No, he
past
was
a
legally
curfew.
able to carry the gun.
Right, okay. So
All right,
state law
okay.
doesn't matter.
All
He
right,
was out
that's
past
just the state
curfew
law,
either
right?
way. Hey, the sheriff himself
Yeah, he was
actually.
out past curfew. There was a curfew, like everybody was breaking the curfew, right?
So yeah, exactly. Everyone that was a rioter. Therefore, Kyle was a rioter. But my point is, there's a lot of people. Riots are extremely unstable, and there's a lot of moving parts. You can't just say everything that happens is connected to left wing
Well, here you go.
when there are
Do you think there's anybody that's politically right that's participating in the looting? Because you're saying it's this fluid thing where you can't
I
tell
would say
who
so,
is
yeah.
where. So you think there's
I would
like
say
MAGA guys out there that are looting shit?
I wouldn't say MAGA guys. They're too radicalized in a direction,
They're
but
too
more
radicalized to
libertarian
break into
right-wingers
place.
maybe.
You th-
You
did
have a
you
lot of
just hold
apolitical
on?
people.
Did you just say MAGA guys are too radical to steal shit during a riot?
Yes, I think they're too pro-Trump, pro-law.
They're too radical to steal shit during a riot. Oh my god!
If
Like,
you're doing like the whole play on like it's radical to
oh,
not
that's
like
just hilarious.
no,
I'm
I
just
get you.
finding
I get
such
you. That is
humor in that.
that's a really funny thing when you
It
take
is
the
funny.
context
It
out
is
of it. No,
funny.
it is funny. No,
It
I
is.
feel you're gonna do the whole editing thing. I got you.
I'll, I'll play this whole. I don't need to edit anything.
Okay, all right. Well, I
Right.
mean, with the
It's an
full context,
entirety.
it's not that funny.
Absolutely.
But my point is they're really pro law enforcement. They have this whole Blue Lives Matter thing. So I don't think they would go to a Macy's and steal like a fucking couple boxes of sneakers. I don't think they would.
Right. So they're pro law and order. So you don't think they'll break the law?
Yeah, and they're radicalized into that ideology. If they're MAGA people, they love Trump, and that's what Trump's been doing
Okay.
for
So
500 years.
it's radical to follow the law and not steal stuff.
What I'm saying
So
when I say
what is
they're
the opposite?
radicalized,
So it's normal then?
let me define radicalized in this context. Radicalized means that they are following in lockstep, one to one, the ideology of what they are
No.
radicalized.
Okay. I get you. I get you.
Okay,
Right. They're indoctrinated. You're saying they're indoctrinated.
sure, that's another word.
Just to sum it up in short, right? You
Yeah.
think they're indoctrinated. Indoctrination prevents them from breaking the law and stealing stuff during a riot. Okay,
Well,
so
my broader point before you got into this minutia was that a lot of people that are
I wouldn't
participating
call it
in
minutia.
riots and looting are apolitical. If you look at a lot of live streams of people, especially back in Minneapolis when things were very, very, very unstable, the battle lines as they were haven't been drawn. Trump hadn't tweeted about anarchists being evil. A lot of right wingers were actually defending burning down the police station, as
Oh,
that's what
I
Don't Tread
gotta
on Me
doubt
actually looks
this.
like.
I gotta doubt
No,
this.
I mean it was just like
Here
a
you
nice
go. How about you
cartoon
make a
style view.
video after we're done with this? You make a video showing all the right wingers in Minneapolis. You point out the right wingers
I
for
can
me in the video.
I'm gonna be honest. I'm not gonna put in that effort. I'm gonna
Right,
be honest.
right. I know you're
I'm just
not
going off
because
of memory. So
that
if you
there's
want to
no
just
such
throw
thing,
that out,
right?
that's fine. Yeah, that's fine. There's
Right.
no such thing as a right winger
No, I'm
ever.
asking you to provide video since
I
you're saying it exists. Like they
we're in
did
the
this. They
middle
were
of a
there.
conversation here.
Right. There's
I'm
tons
not
of
gonna look
video
it up
of
in
it.
the middle of a conversation. I'm not gonna
No,
do
you
that.
don't have to look it up. I asked you to make a video later. You make 15
That's
videos a
labor.
day. You make
That's
15
labor.
videos a day. I don't think I'm asking much here for you to
You are. You're asking me to do
present
something
it.
I don't want to do.
Well, you make 15 videos a day. You said you need this is content, right? I'm helping you
This is
create
content.
content, am I not? Come on.
Yes. Scouring Twitter for like people tweeting that are right wing. That's not really
Right.
content.
Scouring the internet to provide evidence to the claim you made. Yeah, that's asking
Again,
too
you can
much,
throw
right?
it out. Like I'm down to just throw that
Right.
out and continue. That's fine
Right,
with me.
right, right. We'll
That's fine with
pretend
me.
you didn't make that false statement, right?
No, we don't have to like sure. All right. So yeah, but my point is
Oh
there are a lot
God.
of people that are apolitical. Like it's not a left wing idea to go loot from a fucking Starbucks if the window got broken in. That's not left wing. That's an action that left wingers may endorse, right?
No,
But
it
that
would
doesn't
be
make it
it'd be a moral thing, right? It's more of a moral thing, more of an anarchist thing, right? Right. You can be an anarchist and not be totally hardcore left wing, right? You could be center left or, you know, like
I don't know about
moderate
that.
left, right?
Anarchism is definitely very left wing.
Very left wing. It
I'm
is,
not
right.
familiar with
It's
like
not
the
left
moderate
wing on the
anarchism.
spectrum. It's not left on the spectrum, but you find more anarchists amongst the left wingers, right?
Well,
You said this yourself with the anarcho capitalists from Michigan, right? Like they're not left wing. You're at least that's your claim is that they're not left wing,
anarcho
but they're
capitalism.
still anarchists, right? Are they not? Of course they
Not
are.
really. It's kind
Oh
of
no.
like a LARP
Okay. Okay.
ideology. It's like if
Okay.
I
All
were to
right.
say I'm a conservative, well, I
Well,
can say
everybody
it.
would know you're totally full of shit, right?
Exactly. And that's what anarcho-capitalism is.
Like those guys looked about as left wing to me as oh my god as David Duke. They looked about as left wing to me as Mussolini.
Sounds about right to me. I think we're on the same page.
Mussolini was a left winger, was he?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Okay. Whatever. Thought you knew your stuff here, pal.
Yeah. Anyway, so what I was saying is that riots are mostly compromised, especially more toward their inception, right before they got very political with Trump tweeting about them. Most of the people, if you look at live streams, interviews of
They
people
were
on the street,
peaceful, right?
I mean, peaceful is a word you could use to describe most people, sure, right? But most people were apolitical. If a live streamer is going to ask them about the election, they're saying, "I don't really pay attention to politics.
No,
This
they
is
don't.
really."
You're right. You're right. They're not informed at all. I agree. They're not informed people. They don't know much about anything, right? They just go with the flow, right? The NPCs. That's the term that's most often used for that kind of people.
I wouldn't
The
say they're
NPCs.
NPCs. I
Like
wouldn't
here you
say they're
go. I
not
seen.
informed.
I hate to bring this video up, but I'm going to. It was a bad video too, by the way. Somebody, and actually you did a video. I think it was like his 3-minute transvestigation video on you, right? Like the only thing I agreed with them on was that like the word NPC. Like you really do come off as an NPC, like a real edgy, like hardcore edgy
Yeah. All right.
NPC.
Go on.
I know it's a personal attack, but I mean,
No, yeah, you got
I'm
it.
just bringing it up in reference to a video
No,
about the
no, yeah.
transvestigation.
You're just, yeah, I understand. Anyway, so
I mean, it's just like I asked you about Donald Trump, and you could give this, he shows fascist tendencies, towards leaning towards becoming a fascist, and it's because he waves at people, and it's like those are my
yeah,
people.
if you want to ignore all the context of what I
Those
said,
are
that's
my
fine.
people.
I would rather keep going forward and progress and discuss more things than
Let me ask
doing
you this:
weird
like,
thing where we just
why do you do like the cheesy Alec Baldwin impression all the time? Like you use it with Donald Trump, but then you use it with other things too.
I honestly don't know who Alec Baldwin is.
It's the
Is that
Saturday
like an
Night Live
actor?
guy that does the. Hey, he's an
Oh,
actor, but he does a Donald Trump impression. Yeah,
okay.
like you
I
do
don't
a
watch
voice.
that.
It's like people when we watched your video, they were laughing at. They're
I
like,
think it's, yeah,
why
it's
does
funny.
this thing do this voice?
It's funny. I think it's funny. I think doing funny voices and impressions of people that post
It's
stupid things
like
in the chat is funny.
your
Because
arguments
like
again.
they're
Like here you
posting.
go. I'm not a here you go. I'm not a
Yeah,
Trump supporter. Like
right,
like I'm not a MAGA guy. I mean,
right.
I get forced as far as voting goes to pick the lesser of the two evils. I mean, I'm sure you've heard this line before.
That's clearly Donald Trump in your
Right.
calculations, right? Right, of
Well,
course.
yeah, right. I would have to pick Donald Trump.
Yeah, of course. Your
Right.
hands are tied, right?
Well, I mean, I don't like killing babies just for
Right.
starters. I mean, we could
You kill
start
them
with
when they're
that.
fully grown. That's that way they've already sinned.
Right. But like you make these arguments against Donald Trump, but you don't make arguments. Like you just mimic him. You try to do this,
Yeah,
imitation of him and you put words in
yeah,
his mouth. Like you don't
yeah.
really actually make any arguments.
That's exactly correct. Because I think personally, and I will be honest with you, I am a very funny person. At least I try to be. I'm a very non-serious individual.
Okay, so
I don't
you're
think
not making any arguments then,
yeah,
really.
I'm very,
It's like
very
all straight
aware.
like comedy.
I'm not
Okay.
everything I do is not a philosophical inquiry into the human experience. I just have fun with it. And so when
But
Donald
you
Trump
are
does
an
something stupid, I
anti-fascist.
roll with it. Yeah,
So would you consider yourself like a all right, I'm going to say
I would say
this.
I'm a
A
comedian.
a a transgender anti-fascist comedian?
Sure, yeah.
Is that a fair label to put on you?
Why not?
Uh,
Podcaster, you could throw that in there.
Right, like
Buff up the resume a little bit.
there's like everything you say should be taken with a grain of salt as far as any kind of facts.
I sure. I would say that you should have a skeptical mind towards everything.
Oh, I do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Here you go. I've been telling people lately that when it comes to watching content on YouTube, I really don't watch anything that's considered far right wing anymore at all. But what's to be fair, like they've pretty much eradicated all of that on YouTube. I mean, as far as free speech goes, anything right of Six Hexenhammer on YouTube or Steven Crowder is not allowed anymore. It's just not.
Well, YouTube and big tech censorship is a huge pet peeve of
Right.
mine.
So as far as like the stuff that's like right, like I end up watching this like real milk toast, like centrist, left leaning centrist stuff, like Tim
Right.
Pool, crap like that, right?
All right, Tim
Right.
Pool, left
The
famous
eternal
left
fence
winger.
sitter, Tim Pool,
Right,
center left, Beanie Baby,
of
right?
course.
So honestly, like him, I watch some Jesse Lee Peterson stuff a little bit, but that's for comedy. I just laugh at him,
Right, yeah. See,
Um,
that's a lane I'm going for, to be honest for you.
and mostly I watch like hard left stuff. Hard left, like you know who Tom Hartman is by chance?
Nope, can't say.
Um, you know who the Young Turks are, right? Obviously, I would think.
Yeah, but they're not far left.
Well, I watch
They're
stuff that's further left than them. I'm just
I'm
giving
alright,
you a name that you would know,
okay.
right? Like stuff that's that kind of format. Have you heard of Ring of Fire?
Yeah, I've heard of Ring of Fire.
Okay. Do you like them?
I like, I listen to the show every now and then, yeah.
Okay, like that's the kind of stuff I listen to most on YouTube
Okay,
nowadays. Is there as far as political stuff goes? I
alright.
mean, that's the kind of the algorithm probably brought me to you through my watching of that kind of stuff, and then
It
what I
it
was
was meant
searching
to be.
for.
When we got disconnected in that Discord server, whenever that was, there was a reunification. It was destiny.
That is odd because I thought about that too when you joined in here. I was like, I think this is the same person I talked to a couple months ago that they kicked out of the server before I got a chance to try to talk to this person. Right. Yeah, and you're saying it too, right? So it is
Well, I
odd.
had you on mute, so it must have happened at some point.
Right, you had me muted. You're right. You're right. Yeah, so it definitely happened.
Alright. Okay, what else? What were we talking about? What's going on?
Um, well, I'd like to get more into the Antifa thing, and
Okay.
since we're talking about like the commentary is basically just entirely entertainment, no real fact-based stuff. But I will say this before I go on is that, and I commented this in my video, that you did say one fact in that stream that we watched where you were doing all the imitations of Donald Trump is,
Mhm.
that when he was at the hospital getting treatment, that he was probably getting some kind of aborted fetal cell cocktail given to him at the hospital,
Which I think is hilarious.
which I think is absolutely true because they put that stuff in basically everything that they give you for medicine nowadays as far as vaccinations and things along those lines go.
Sure thing.
Right. So
Yeah,
like,
but my I wouldn't say, like, I do some videos, maybe, that I'm trying to be informative and serious on, but most of my videos are just kind of, this is my take on what's happening. I'm not trying, like, with every topic I cover, I'm not trying to make a persuasive essay out of it. I'm not trying to convince anyone to think otherwise. I'm just giving my take on something as I see it in that moment. That's my shtick.
now let me ask you the aborted fetal matter here. Okay. You commented on it, and I asked you during your stream in the chat,
Mhm.
and you gave me an answer, but I'll ask it again since we're recording and we're communicating.
Right?
Um, why does it matter to you if he's using aborted fetal matter if they're giving it to him? Like you support abortion, right?
I support people's right to get an abortion if they
Right,
need.
right, right. The same thing, right? Like,
Sure, yeah.
right. So they got to do
I think
something
it's
with all
funny.
this baby parts, don't they?
Yeah,
Well, all
I
the
think it's
fetal
funny.
matter.
The reason why I bring it up when I talk about Trump nowadays is because, 1, it's funny. 2, it makes people on the right dislike Trump a little bit more. It just hits that stone a little bit. Because let's be honest, Trump's a buffoon. He said so
I
many
think the
different
only thing
things,
it
right?
does, I'm telling you right now, as somebody who, like I said, I'm definitely not a MAGA guy. I mean, I'll be straight out with you right now, and I'll just say it. Trump's a Zionist. I mean,
Okay,
I don't
we can
support.
agree on that.
I don't support Zionism.
Okay.
So, I mean, again, the lesser of the two evils. Zionism versus godlessness, godless heathens. I mean, to put it in short terms, I mean, I'm stuck between a rock and a hard place here.
Yeah, you're fucked.
Right, but the aborted fetal matter thing, like I said, they got to do something with these baby parts. If you support killing the babies, I mean, it only makes sense that you harvest their parts, and
Yeah, well, again, I don't bring it up as like, "How dare you, sir?" I
I
bring it
think you're
up as
more
just a way
hurting
to make
people that
fun of
are like
people.
questionable about vaccinations. I mean,
What?
that's what you're really doing is, like people who might be willing to get a vaccination. Like, here you go. You believe in the COVID stuff?
So what stuff?
Like
The virus?
COVID-19, like the mainstream, news and all that about COVID-19. I mean, do you believe that stuff?
Well, I don't. Tell me what the news is. Like the
Well,
way it transmits.
I mean,
Like,
you seem to watch the news. You seem to have all these clips of Donald Trump and stuff, and I'm just figuring. I mean, you
well,
support
just give
it.
me what are facts that you want to know if I agree with? Like, do
Oh,
masks
like
function?
yeah,
Like how?
Max, like wearing these masks, right? Yeah, that there you go. I mean, you gave something we can talk about the masks, right? Do we need to be wearing all the masks because of the threat of COVID?
I think wearing masks is good praxis, just with or without a pandemic. Look at they do that in Asian countries, and they
All
have a
right.
lot less sickness transmission.
Well, I'm gonna make a joke here. I'm just laying that out first. Um,
Right?
Considering your Antifa flag there in the background, I'm not
Right?
shocked that you support wearing masks all the time, regardless.
Yeah, I mean, I was wearing masks before it was cool. Let me just tell you.
Right. It's harder to be identified wearing a mask.
Absolutely.
Right. So I get it.
So I'm pretty happy that that's gone mainstream. I'm
I
very
bet. Well, like I said, I had to make a joke out of it. That's why I'm
yeah,
laughing,
no, go for it.
obviously. Um, so the baby parts, okay. So like you're totally cool with it then. Like the vaccinations. I mean,
Am I cool with it? I don't know if I'm cool with it. Like, if he's gonna get that kind of stuff, I would rather.
I mean,
Be
here
a
you go.
normal
Let's use a different example than COVID, since it's a touchy subject to talk about. Period. On YouTube, right? We'll steer away from it and go to something else that might require a vaccination instead. How about some polio? How about polio?
What about it?
Do you think people should get polio vaccinations? I
I
mean, do you know what polio is?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not super read up on that. I'm
I
only
mean,
24.
well, sure. Like people didn't have polio while you were alive, really.
Yeah.
Right? Like polio pretty much died out about 30, 40 years ago for the most part. You had some stragglers maybe 20 years ago, but that's about it. Nobody's really getting polio anymore. It's because they vaccinate, right?
Is this like one of the vaccinations that people get when they're young?
Well,
That
I
you're referring-
mean, here you go. It's going to have some aborted fetal matter in there.
Okay.
So, I mean, that's what I'm just saying. Like the aborted fetal matter thing, it really doesn't affect Trumpers. I really don't think it does. I mean, again, I'm not a Trumper, but, you know, I mean,
I mean, there's the
they're either going to take
evangelical
the
segment.
vaccination or they're not. It's as simple as that.
I mean, my thing is, I really do enjoy making Trumpers upset, and there is a contingent of very religious Trumpers that follow me and spam my channel a lot.
Really.
So if they start to come in, I just go to the
I did
material.
actually see that you had done a couple streams with some people. I did, like, because you were talking about like debating all these Nazis and stuff, and we were just.
I again, you had a complete misunderstanding earlier. I love doing this shit.
Well, we were laughing about it. We were like, "Oh my god, are you serious?" We were just laughing. We were like, "No way." We couldn't believe it.
Yeah, well, egg on your face, huh?
I suppose so, right? Like, I didn't watch any of the debates. To be fair, I just seen that there was like video of you talking to people that either you called some kind of label like white supremacist or something along those type of lines. I don't remember the exact words.
I personally, my favorite is debating the anarcho-capitalists. Those guys are Chief Dullard.
Well, I'm a capitalist, but I'm an authoritarian capitalist. So
That I've definitely gleaned that.
right, like no anarcho here, my friend.
Right.
No. You already know the drill as far as that goes.
Right.
I'm sure. Yeah, like you're an anti-fascist. Like I'm what you would consider like basically the top end of the fascist food chain as far as that would go on the political spectrum type situation. Sure. More the the Pinochet. You know who that is?
Yeah.
Okay. I didn't know. You didn't know a couple other names I threw out there, so you know him. What's he famous for?
Helicopters,
There
buddy.
you go. All right. All right. All
I'm
right.
I
Uh,
can feel your bloodstreams are just excited right now.
it did. You're right.
The
You did.
adrenaline is
You
pouring
did.
through.
I
You
got
got
it.
your
I did.
you got your
I
thing
got a
in.
tingle on my arms. You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
no, definitely.
Right. Right. I think you know. Right. What I'm the picture in my head right now. Right.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I get it. You know, because like here you go. The lifestyle you live and the things you support. Like you guys know what would happen, right? If you actually had to answer for it, right?
What does that
You
mean?
know, oh, they would be put to end. Like there's no more of this, degeneracy and stuff. Oh no,
What is answer for what? What are we answering for?
all the sins against humanity.
What sins?
What sins? I mean, where do I begin? I mean, your life is a sin. I mean, I could be
What about
general.
my life is a sin?
What about it isn't? It would be a
I don't
better
know. I don't
question.
know what a sin is. I don't believe in that stuff. So I'm just trying to get your definitions.
You spew evil rhetoric. You have a flag behind you that essentially represents Satan, for lack of a better term. Just to put it simple, I suppose. I mean, you might as well have 666 tattooed on your forehead.
Would you like that? Should I do that?
Oh, if you were marked, yeah, I would. As a matter of fact, I would. It would make my life easier. I think it would make everybody's life easier
Would
because
that?
when they met somebody in public, they would know. They would know. They wouldn't be deceived.
Right. Of
They would
course.
know. They would know who they were talking to then.
Right?
Because there's a lot of people out there who don't know. There's a lot of, NPCs. I mean, NPCs aren't just a left thing, There's plenty of NPCs on the right. There's the MAGA NPC, right? I mean, I think we can both agree on that one.
Sure thing.
Yeah, there's the MAGA NPC. There's the Antifa NPC. There's plenty of NPCs out there. But if the NPC ran into the other NPC and he's seen the badge, right, he'd know who he's talking to. A
Sure.
deceiver, a deceiver, to put it
Right.
simply.
A deceiver.
Right.
Okay.
To
Right.
to use some kind of theology here. I'm not trying to go into any deep theology. I did hear you say something about some Christianity or something like that. I'm not trying to, you know.
I'm not religious. I'm an atheist.
I think that went without saying, but
Yeah. Well, I was just, gotta say it.
right.
Etch it
Were
into
you
the
at
record.
any point a Christian? Were you baptized?
I don't know at all. But I remember praying a lot when I was 12 and 13, and nothing happened, and things got worse. And from that point onward, I was like, fuck it.
So you don't remember if you were baptized or not. I mean, are you being honest with me?
I am. I
I
mean,
mean,
if I
I feel like
I
I'm
think
being
the
pretty
most
easy
honest
here, and
answer would be I don't know.
like I told you, I'm a really reasonable person. You were like, I'm hard. I'm
Well,
kind
I
of. Right. I feel I've been very reasonable in here. Wouldn't you agree?
I would say you've been moderately reasonable, I would say.
Okay, yeah, right. So I'm not the big bad boogeyman you thought I was going to be.
I mean, I don't know if I necessarily thought you were a big bad boogeyman, but sure.
So you don't remember being baptized, but do you ever remember going to church?
I went to church a few times,
A few
maybe like
times.
5 times ever.
That really doesn't count, honestly.
Yeah, well, I'm saying I don't remember. Like I don't
Right.
know, like don't baptisms happen when like you're like 1 or something? I don't fucking know.
I want to say I got baptized when I was 5.
Oh, well, I don't know. I don't remember it. So
Like
if
I
it were when I
remember
was
it.
like 1 or 2, maybe, but I don't know. I don't think so.
Okay, so yeah, doesn't so atheist, anarchist. Okay, anti-fascist. Like now, these things. Would you consider this part of your comedy act, or is this you?
What What do you mean by that exactly?
So
Like, do you
atheist.
think I'm playing a
Are you
character? Or?
really an atheist, or are you just playing
Yeah,
an atheist?
definitely.
Well, I mean, you're basically saying as far as when it goes to social and political commentary, you're playing a character.
I never said that.
Well, I mean, you did say that we could take everything you say, with a grain of salt. Like there's really no facts
I
there.
said you should take what everyone says with a grain of salt.
You
If
prefer
something doesn't seem right to you,
you
you can
don't
feel free
provide
to
facts
fact check.
though. I mean, you agreed to that. You don't
But
provide facts.
well, I don't do video essays in a persuasive manner. That's not my thing. I'm a podcaster. I give my live reaction to news and events. I'm
Yeah.
not going to like do a thorough fact check, like interview like fucking people and like go out. Like I'm not a
Oh
journalist.
no, no, I don't.
I'm a podcaster.
You
I'm a
could
commentator.
interview other Antifa people though. You ever thought about doing that?
I live in a rural state now. I can't go to protests as much.
What about like all the man? I'm gonna do it. The YouTube money, like you can't like. Don't you have a car or something?
I don't drive.
What about somebody to drive you? Don't you have any friends
I'm sure, yeah.
that
But I'm not
live
gonna go to a
there?
protest in a city I don't live in. That's a terrible idea.
Oh, you could go there and interview people as content.
If I had like slightly more like security involved, maybe. But eh.
Well, you could just interview Antifa people. I mean, you're one of them. You should be cool.
It could be cool.
They're
If
not
there's
gonna they're not
protests
gonna
going on
mistake
near
you as a
me, I would.
Nazi. They're not gonna mistakenly attack you and start yelling Nazi.
I would be shocked.
I
I
would
would
be shocked as well. I mean, they did
yeah.
attack a Jewish guy and say he was a Nazi. So, I mean, it
They're
happens,
doing a
but
lot of work here, but yeah.
right, like it does happen. But I think you're in the clear.
I would say I'm probably good to go.
Right.
Got the green light.
So that's pretty much out of the question. Okay, so
What's out of the question?
like doing something like that. I'm just asking, like why you wouldn't.
I mean, it's not out of the
You
question.
answer.
I live like 6 hours away from a
Yeah,
major city. I
right.
used to live in Washington, so I used to go to a lot of protests, but I don't. I moved. So,
How long ago did you move?
uh, it was around this time last year.
Oh, so you weren't
But
there during the Chaz or anything.
no. Well, that was in Washington. Like no, that was in Washington State. I meant DC.
Oh,
Yeah, DC.
okay. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say you could have got to experience,
Hey, I wish that would have been fun.
socialism in its true,
That would have been fun.
true socialism, right?
If I were involved with Chaz, if that were something that I had access to, it would have gone a lot better. Let me tell you.
Yeah,
Let me tell
it
you.
went pretty
My
bad.
big brain being applied to that project, things would have. They'd still be there. Let me tell you that. That's a joke for reference.
Oh
I know.
yeah, I'm sure
yeah,
that they weren't going to be there regardless, right?
yeah. I'm surprised they lasted as long as they did.
Yeah. Honestly, I am too. But I'm surprised any of this has gone on, as long as it has. To be honest with you, I told people from the early get go, as soon as the whole shortages started in the grocery stores, I said I'm not worried about anything until I see civil unrest start out of the black community, and then I'll start to worry about stuff. And then, sure enough, like clockwork, civil unrest started out of the black community.
What is the black community? What is that distinction for?
What is that distinction for? Well, how about they ain't white folks? Let's start with that. I mean, what are you trying to
Are
get
you
here?
saying
Like,
like what,
why are you?
100% of black people?
Why
or-
are you like trying to get some kind of answer for a question that you already know the answer for?
Because I just want you to explain it to me clear. Like when I ask these questions, I like learning from people.
Okay.
and the
I'll be
words
more
that you would use
specific.
to-
I'll be more
yeah.
specific. When the Black Identity extremist movement started up, because I knew that.
Well,
I won't say I knew, but I said I wasn't worried about anything until I seen some kind of. I'll put a name on it. Some kind of Black Identity extremist movement start to happen in this nation, and it did start to happen in this nation.
6 years ago.
No, I'm talking about in regards to the food shortages in the stores in recent events.
Okay.
Right. Like I wasn't worried about,
But what about like the theoretical
what?
I don't know, like maybe people taking over a state capital with guns Does that ring any bells?
Oh
Is that
yeah, yeah.
problematic?
The left wing guys, right? The Antifa dudes, right?
If you want to call them that, sure, yeah.
Right. The guys with the governor thing. Yeah. Oh yeah, they were definitely left. Yeah, they were anarchists, no doubt about it.
Yeah, I mean, if you don't know how to Google and
Right.
learn
If I
basic
don't listen to,
definitions of
you know,
words,
here you go. I listen to NPR every day in my car driving to and
ooh,
from work.
yeesh.
I know, right? Well, it's about
Yeah,
is
that's
it's
tough.
about the best radio source you're going to get for the far left wing perspective. You're not going to get anything
Well,
much further left than that,
wait,
at least in
okay.
my area.
For like that's like milk toast Obama shit.
I'd say maybe 8 years ago it was. It's definitely moved further on than Obama. It's far more progressive than it was during Obama.
Is NPR talking about police abolition?
Oh yeah, 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 yeah. There,
Really?
yeah. Here you
Okay.
go. Where I live on NPR before the COVID. Okay, the content consisted of victimized minorities,
Right.
gay minorities,
Wait, what was that word? You like you
gay
pick up
minorities,
gay minority?
LGBTQ minorities
Right.
in
So
in a
victimized
system of white
minorities
supremacy.
in
That's basically
addition.
all they would talk. And anti-Trump, and we hate Trump.
Right. I mean
Right,
that's pretty easy.
right. That was basically the spin. That was
Okay.
the 24-hour cycle in NPR. Well, I won't say 24-hour, but the 12-hour cycle on NPR.
Okay.
Yeah. So I feel like it's a pretty decent source in my car as far as getting, a progressive opinion on current events while I'm driving in my car.
I think you should listen to my show personally, but that's
Well,
just me.
I think I'm getting a little better sources than that. Oh, Tom Hartman's got you beat. Yeah,
Oh,
Ring of
shit.
Fire, like you said, Ring of Fire. So
Yeah, I
I
mean,
mean,
if you make any more time though, I guarantee you, I am much further to the left than these
I
outlets.
don't. I kind of doubt it. I mean, you do have, the whole gender identity card that you can play there, but
Right, the card.
right, but where
Right.
these guys don't have that, but they talk more about the issues, I guess you could say. They actually go into a little bit of detail. I mean, they're extremely vague too, like yourself. So I
I
mean,
mean, I go into
that's
detail. I
fair.
mean, like you said, you don't watch my show. You've only watched like maybe what 5 videos, so you don't really know the level of detail I give on my shows.
Well, I mean,
The
from the
the
sampling I
fucking video
have,
that the stream that you came into was like a
definitely.
video game stream. It wasn't even a political cast.
Well, I'm aware of that, right? Like I said, you make 15 videos a day, so odds are pretty good that you're going to be live during decent hours. I don't know. You may live stream at night for all I know, too. I don't know. I'm asleep.
Well, sometimes.
Right, exactly. So, you know, get in there while you're live. That's the best time to do something like that.
Sure.
But yeah, competing with Ring of Fire, I mean, that's pretty hard for you to do, I think, as far as, that kind of content specifically.
Well, I don't know if I'm necessarily competing with anybody.
Well, for, a person like me looking for far left wing
Well,
content
I mean, they're
to
just
get
not like
perspective
they're
from,
not far left. Like they're relatively left.
I
Like I
don't
would
know about
consider them
that.
allies, but far left. I mean, I don't think anyone on Ring of Fire is an anarchist.
Uh, honestly, I'd probably agree with that. I don't think any of them are anarchists. I'd say they're more authoritarians, right? I really would.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, looks like another victory for me in the battlefield of ideas.
Yeah. You can claim a victory on that one, right? Right. Ring of Fire, I think, are more authoritarian than they are anarchists. Yes, I do. I do. Right. They would assume take all my rights away from me. Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. They'd just seize all my shit if they had their way. They sure would. Yep. So, what do you think about Obama? Did you think he was like the greatest president and stuff because he was black?
Obama's garbage.
Garbage. Why? So, what do you think
My
about them like
answer.
constantly beating on his legacy? Like he's some kind of messiah and shit.
I think that's cringe. That's why I don't like liberals.
Well, I mean, you see a lot of people doing it. I mean, I guess it depends on how far left you go, I suppose, right? Like I watched Linda Sarsour on a podcast last night. What do you think of her?
I don't know much about
You don't know
Linda
much about Linda
Sarsour.
Sarsour. Yeah. She's pretty far left, man. She's all big anti-Israel. You know, big
Okay.
hate white people and anti-Israel.
I mean, all right. The whole hate white people thing. It's so cringe. Like, do you
Oh,
think I
yeah,
hate
sure
white
is.
people?
I think you blame white people for the shortcomings of others. Yes, absolutely.
What can you give me an example of me doing that?
Well, the Antifa movement. I mean, you support the
Well,
Antifa
no, like
movement.
an example of me doing that,
It
like me.
preaches that narrative. Oh, the black victimization narrative, right?
What is that?
You support the black victimization narrative that blacks are indiscriminately targeted by police for no good reason whatsoever other than their skin color.
Disproportionately higher, yes. Do I
Well,
think that there's a bunch of cops going out there going, "I'm gonna kill them
okay,
one
so what if
time"?
I told
Not
you that?
necessarily.
What if I told you that the disproportionate rates of violent crime and murder that they also commit in this nation definitely correlate with the disproportionate rate of the police encounters that they're having? What would you say then?
I would say if you have more encounters with police, there's more likelihood of things going wrong.
Right, right, right. If you're out there committing more violent crimes and murders, odds are you're going to have more police encounters, aren't you?
If the implication is that black people are inherently just wandering the streets committing crimes, then I guess, but
Well,
that's not the case.
do you
No?
know that they commit to just I'm stuttering on my words here. God, it's tired. That's why I wanted to do this earlier.
Oh,
Disproportionate crime, violent crime, and murder. Basically, all disproportionate crime, other than liquor violations, if we're going to be specific. But
okay.
I
You got
mean,
that like right on you? You got the statistics?
oh, FBI UCR, you can go back, 20, 30 years if you want. It's the same numbers basically every year.
Yeah, I
Right.
mean that's less of a thing.
You can look at cities crime stats.
Because
Go like the
there's
city
a
of
huge
Chicago,
difference.
whatever. You
There's a
know,
huge difference
any
between
metropolitan, you'll find the crime
people
rate's the
that do
same.
things and people that do things with the authority and the sanctioning of the United States government.
Well, I mean,
Like,
so there shouldn't be any cops at all. You're saying the cops are the problem here? I mean, is it the
I'm
government
saying
policing the black people?
the
Should they
cops
not
are a
police them?
problem. The cops training, I don't necessarily not I'm not saying that we shouldn't have law enforcement, but the police as they're trained in this country, garbage. Like you could get random people off the street that could do better jobs if you had proper coordination. Um,
Should they
so
be
I
sending social workers out to domestic violence cases?
You can send social workers out to homeless people's locations and maybe help them, get into some sort of program, like a rehabilitation program or maybe a housing program. You can have social workers maybe go to people that are publicly intoxicated, and not like wave guns in their faces and scare them, when they're intoxicated
Do
and
you
they
think
can't
they
think
just wave
clearly.
guns at people anytime, no matter what? Like just
I've had cops
whenever
wave
at a
guns.
whim, at a whim.
I've had that happen.
Well, that's anecdotal.
Yeah, it is anecdotal.
That's anecdotal.
Yeah,
And you
correct.
can't prove it either. So
Can't
that's
prove it.
why.
Got me.
Well, it is anecdotal. I mean, it's
No, you
anecdotal
got me.
evidence that you can't prove. So,
Right. No, I agree with you. So
right,
next,
right. I would, again, I'll ask the question: do they just go around waving guns at people whenever they
I
feel
would
like
say
it?
it is something that there have been many, many people, including myself, that have experienced that very same behavior.
That's not really evidence, though. That's really more.
I
You,
mean, again, if
and
you
even
want me to
even
do like
referenced
an
your own
essay or
anecdotal evidence
something,
from
if you
before.
want me to like write a book on this question, maybe. But like we're just kind of having a conversation. So if we don't agree on the facts here, that's fine. We can move on.
Well, okay, yeah, we don't agree on the facts. That's for certain there.
Yeah. So let's just move on.
So, is it white people to blame for this? Is it the
I
system of
blame.
white
I blame.
supremacy?
I blame capitalism first and foremost.
Is capitalism a system of white supremacy?
Absolutely.
How so?
Capitalism is about hoarding wealth and keeping as much money at the top as possible, when you account for things like primitive accumulation resulting in the feudalistic kind of worldview that we had, that had Europeans at such a point in society where they had so much gold that they took from other nations, all that kind of stuff, that gives white people a hell of a big ass like head start. Does that mean that all white people are inherently richer? No. And anyone that says that is a
Well, that's
fucking
not a system
moron.
of white supremacy, then, is it? That's a classist system.
It's a
That's not a
system. Yeah,
race-based
it's
system. That's a
classist. It's
class-based
both.
system.
It's both, because
How can it
white
be
people
both?
are more likely to have intergenerational
But
wealth.
they're not giving the benefits of this system onto other whites. They're only keeping it amongst the elite. I don't benefit from this system, and I'm white. You don't benefit
You
from
don't
this
benefit
system,
from
and
the
you're
system?
white. Oh
White
no, no, I don't
supremacy.
have a lap pool in my backyard, and I don't
Okay.
have a black mammy cooking my food for me. No, I don't.
Right.
Never
Okay.
have, never will. Right.
All right. I'm happy for you. Um, White supremacy does not mean that, like, obviously, given the trajectory of this government and
So
civil
only
rights
a very
movement,
small percentage of whites get to be supreme,
yes,
like 2% of them
sure,
worldwide.
sure, yeah. Like I said, the problem is capitalism first and foremost. Capitalism uses all of its tools in the tool belt to continue hoarding wealth at the top, including, but not limited to, white supremacy. Does that mean it is a white supremacist like system of governance that's going to elevate all white people to heaven and Valhalla? No. It means they're going to utilize things like having black people hate white people hate black people, etc., causing a racial, violence, causing hate crimes, and
You
keeping
mean
the
the
99%
hate
fighting
crimes?
amongst
Yeah, like
themselves?
the media provoking blacks has a lot to do with hate crimes, if you ask me. Like these
Okay.
celebrities and stuff that promote anti-white rhetoric, like LeBron James, just to name one. Oprah Winfrey, late as of late,
Okay.
they get away with it. They're unchecked. Nick Cannon, I don't know if you know the stuff he did with the Cannons class.
I
He
don't know
did.
who that is.
You don't know who Nick Cannon is? He was the Nickelodeon star turned married Mariah Carey.
I don't really pay attention to that stuff.
Well, he had a podcast, and he was all communist black fist in the background, right? And
Sounds cool.
right, right. I'm sure you're right. You missed out on some stuff you probably would have liked. But he had Professor Griff on there one episode, and I knew something was going to go bad there. 'Cause
I don't know who
Professor
that is.
Griff, well, he's a rapper slash
Okay.
entertainer from like the '80s, basically. But he's a real outspoken fella, and yeah, they started talking a little bit about some Jewish stuff. It was mostly Bash Whitey, of course, but they mentioned the Rothschilds, a couple of these so-called white elitists that you were kind of referencing in your white supremacy narrative. They named a couple of those guys, and Nick Cannon had to backpedal publicly and apologize to the Jewish community for his words that he said on his podcast about them.
Okay. I think that sounds a little silly. If it is as you described, and he was just mentioning rich families with not necessarily any sort of attribute, like it is because they are Jewish that they are at this position. Like, if that's not what he was saying,
Well,
then yeah,
no,
that
no,
sounds like he's jumping on
they did mention, again, I don't remember it word for word, but I do want to say that there was some kind of, at the very least, insinuation that yes, it was Jews at the very top of the food chain as far as a system of power goes in this world.
Okay.
So Nick Cannon had to publicly backpedal on that one, but
Well, I'm gonna be
all
honest
the
with you. I don't
system of
really
white
care about Nick
supremacy stuff
Cannon.
was okay.
Like, I really just don't give a shit about that. Like, I don't know who that is. Don't listen to the podcast. Don't know anything about that. So, um, and it's
But here
also
you
been an
go. There was
hour,
real no
so I kind of want
system
to
of.
wrap this up.
Okay, okay. Well, fair enough.
Yeah,
But
like,
there
I
really
know I'm not
was
telling
no
you to shut up now, but like, let's just,
there really was no system of white supremacy though
right?
that you
Okay.
described.
Okay.
Like an elite few. Like I think we were basically able to agree that there was more of a class thing there than a race thing.
Did white people benefit from Jim Crow laws?
The white how I just want to hear. I want
Well,
to
I'm
hear what you
asking
got to
you.
say. Well, I'm
Yes or no
asking you
question.
how did they benefit from Jim Crow laws?
Well,
Do you even
if
know?
you have laws that say that black people cannot purchase property in a certain district, right?
Okay.
Would you say that that's not having equal opportunity to maybe purchase a house that you would then give on to your grandchildren?
Okay. Jim Crow. Sure. Yeah. Right. Yeah, they didn't benefit from Jim Crow, right? Now their
White people
community
didn't
was
benefit?
more together as a community. 80% fathers in homes compared to 80% fathers not in homes today. But I suppose
What are we
that's a
talking
different
about?
discussion, right? I just mentioned the fact that in this Jim Crow era, that you had 80% of the fathers in the homes compared to today,
Okay.
where you have 80% of the fathers not in the homes.
So you're saying Jim Crow is better than it is now?
Well, blacks committed a lot less crime per capita during Jim Crow than they do now. Again, the numbers
Okay.
support what I say.
Okay.
Like they had crime rates that were closer to that of whites during Jim Crow
Okay.
compared to, like I said, now the only crime that they commit at a rate that represents their population are liquor violations.
Okay.
Every other
Um,
crime is disproportionate.
cool. So white people did not benefit from Jim Crow laws to get that answer?
Oh, I would suppose they did. Yeah. Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Right.
So you can see how Jim Crow laws being officially abolished in the, the
Yeah,
60s.
they're gone. Right. Yeah, they're
Right, but
gone.
there are still people that are alive right now that were denied purchasing a home,
Okay.
right, because of their skin color. And if they can't pass that home along to their grandchildren, or maybe their grandchildren, you know, lose
So,
their
what
house.
did they do with the money then? Did they just throw all the money away that they would have used to purchase the home? They just threw all that fucking money away because they couldn't buy the home, but they had the money to buy the home, right?
Or
So, what
maybe
did
they
they
were
do with all the money? What did they
renting?
do with all the money?
Renting?
Well, they couldn't buy the home though, so they just were like everybody else who couldn't afford to buy a home, so they rented, right? There was no
Sure.
generational wealth if they couldn't even afford to buy the home. I mean, I'm just asking, like, they couldn't save any
Okay,
money?
so let's go further back. Let's say, I don't know, these people's parents that couldn't buy the home, maybe their parents or grandparents were slaves.
Okay.
Can't make a lot of money being a slave.
Well, they sold their
So
own people into slavery, to be fair, if we're going to talk about the whole
I
slave thing.
I don't know who they is.
The
Who's
blacks,
they?
the Africans
The
sold their
blacks.
own
What
and
does that mean?
captured.
Who's they?
The
So like,
Africans sold their own African people
okay, that
into
how what does
slavery,
that have
right?
to do with the past 100 years of the United States? What is that?
Well,
How is that
you're
relevant?
the one mentioning slavery, not me. So I'm
Yes.
just
Yes, but how what does
answering what
that
you're
have to
saying,
Okay, so they were sold. Okay, great. Right? So you're right. That's awesome. I'm happy for you.
right?
But they are in slavery. So my
Okay,
point is not changed. It's not There's no difference in there. My point was they were enslaved. You
okay,
can't make a lot of money when you're a slave,
yeah.
right? So when your grandpa is a slave, right? It's not like, "Oh, hey grandpa, can you, give me, some money? I kind of fell
Okay,
on
I'm going
some
to
hard
give
times."
you a comparison to what you're saying then with this generational wealth thing. How much money are you going to inherit? What are you
I don't
looking
know.
to inherit? Your mom's already dead. I mean, I don't mean to rub it in, but your mom's already dead. I mean, are you going to, inherit
I
some
don't
kind of
know.
massive wealth from
And
your
again, you're
father?
doing this whole like there is
Are
one
you?
white poor person, so that means white people didn't.
Well,
I
obviously
have
there's not. If
benefited in a lot of
we're
ways.
talking about one out of two of the whites in here are basically willing to admit that they're not
That's
going to
anecdotal.
inherit anything at all.
That's anecdotal.
Well, that's one out of two, isn't it?
One out of two in an anecdotal.
Well, okay, so the majority of whites wealthy then? No, they're not. So
That's
they're
not
not
the
getting this
argument.
generational wealth that you're speaking of.
It's generational wealth. When you have generations accumulating wealth over 200 years, and one generation that wasn't even allowed to own wealth for 100 of those 200 years, they're going to have a different amount of wealth distributed among the different populations. Obviously, right? There's going to be black people that have managed to make it in a capitalist society. There's going to be white people that have managed to make it in a
Okay.
capitalist society. There's going to be white people that don't make it in a capitalist society. Does that mean that white people on average didn't benefit from Jim Crow laws? Of course not. They benefited. Does that mean they were automatically ascended to Valhalla? They were on the top of the
Well,
food
then
chain?
why are you even
No.
mentioning it
They
like
maybe
this
were
then?
on like maybe they were on like rank 8 and black people are on rank 12, right? That's still benefiting. That still puts you in a slightly better position. Am I saying all white people are
Then
to
why don't you
blame?
go against the
No,
groups that have the actual wealth then? Why are you
I
attacking whites
do.
when
I
we're
don't
talking
attack.
about the
Again, first of all,
the
you
racial
haven't.
wealth food chain here? You know, whites are just above blacks. You know, there's groups that make more money than whites.
Right. Okay. I know what
I
you're about
mean,
to say.
why not go
So
after the Asians? Why not go after the Jewish
because
people?
I don't look at things in a racist way,
I mean, you're
unlike
talking
yourself.
about this system. It's a classist system that you're describing, not a racist
It is
system.
classist and has remnants of racism. Again, you admitted that
Remnants.
white people benefit.
So
Yes.
are what are
The
all the
people
remnants
that
not
are
eradicated?
alive, the people that are alive right now
Okay.
lived under Jim Crow laws, which you yourself said that
Okay.
benefited white people more than black people.
Did all of the black people
Therefore,
live under Jim Crow laws? Did all of them?
of course not.
Okay. Okay. So you're making an argument for a small percentage of them. Okay. Fair enough.
We're talking about things like generational wealth.
Yeah. Again, and I think we already
We're talking about
discussed
things like
that. You
grandparents.
know how most of America isn't getting generational wealth regardless
Yes.
of their skin
Again,
color,
well, it's
right?
not a binary. It's not okay, you either get
I
generational
mean,
wealth
about
or
the
you
only
don't
people
get
getting
generational
generational
wealth.
wealth in this country are Asians, Indians from India,
That's not that again, Indians
Arabs,
from India, that's a small percentage. There's a lot of
Jewish
Indians that
people.
aren't from
Well,
India. There's
these
a
are the
lot of
people that are
Indians that
actually getting generational wealth in this
okay,
country.
awesome. Great. Great. That's amazing. So anyway, we've been doing this
So
for
they're
about
benefiting
70
from a
minutes.
system of white supremacy.
They can benefit from capitalism being first and foremost what's driving a system of white supremacy. Sure.
Wow.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm
If you
jumping
want to
through a
have
lot
another
of hoops here. Right?
yeah, I'm jumping
A
through.
lot of jumping through
I'm
hoops.
really I'm just I've got a lot of you might not know this, but I'm also a dancer and I'm an athlete.
Wow.
And so as a result, I possess the ability to jump. I can dash through hoops. I can skip through hoops. I can do all kinds of stuff.
Right.
But we've reached our quotas met.
Yes.
So
Yes.
I'm
Yes, we
getting
have.
tired. It's night for me. Thank you for being very, very moderately reasonable. I appreciate that. Um, can I ask you one last question?
Absolutely.
What made you pay it? What was your first introduction to politics? What you asked me this earlier. What is your gateway?
My first introduction to politics. That would have been through
Yes.
school.
And what did they teach you?
Oh, they were just pushing the Democrat candidate, Michael Dukakis.
Okay.
I was young in elementary
Okay.
school. They were pushing Michael Dukakis throughout the school. I remember us going to gosh, what did they call that? Where I wouldn't call it a rally, an assembly. Okay, there you go,
Right.
assembly. They would have assemblies, and we would go in the gymnasium, and they would, you know, start pushing this Michael Dukakis crap. And I questioned it as a child, like, why are we even talking about this? You know, like I'm
And
just a
that
kid.
and what how did that translate to you having the beliefs that you have today?
Um, honestly, that made me question why they were doing it. But that basically they were just trying to make me believe something, regardless of whether I should or not. Like
And you said earlier
again, what
you're an
place did it have?
authoritarian,
Yeah,
so you should like that.
I should like that. How?
Well, you said you're an authoritarian. You want to tell people
Right, right. I
what
should
they
question
should.
the narrative no matter what, is what you're saying. Right,
Well, yeah, you should be
right.
obedient. Or is it
Obedient.
like you want to be like you think you're going to be in control when we have an authoritarian society? Is that what that is?
Oh, I
Are you
won't be in
hedging your
control.
bets?
I'm not in control now. No,
Well, then why did you say you're an
I just
authoritarian?
support a more authoritarian system.
Okay.
I
So,
mean,
but you okay, so you do endorse telling children to vote for a specific candidate or whatever?
well, I suppose yes, I do honestly, but you know, these people are obviously going about it the wrong way. I mean, here you
Right,
go. Today
right,
in the schools right now,
right.
I mean, they're teaching my kid that you're normal, for instance,
Okay.
and it's indoctrination. I mean, they were trying to
Right,
indoctrinate me
right.
back then.
Right. So, would you say you're a conservative? You don't want to view transgender people as people. You'd rather view them as like second class, third class citizens that deserve to die?
I
What
never
it
said
what is
that.
Well, I mean, I'm just trying to figure this out. Like, I'm trying to like etch through this worldview here. I'm trying to like kind of put some points on the board.
Oh, I'm not going to be forced to identify you as what you aren't. I don't think that's.
What does force mean?
I shouldn't have to refer to you as a miss.
You shouldn't have to.
No,
Well, no
no,
one
I
should have
wouldn't.
to do
I
anything.
wouldn't do it. Right.
Well, no one should have to do anything. Like, so okay, who's forcing you to do anything?
Well, you're asking me about being a conservative, and what I'm saying
Yeah,
is
you
that
want to
right.
retain a system where cisgender people are higher up on a ladder of hierarchy than transgender people. You want to attain and uphold that system as long as you can,
Here you
right?
go. I don't think that you should have marriage rights with another man. No, I do not.
Okay, so you're going full on. You hate gay people too.
I do not, because you're not
Well, you
married.
just said
You're
you
not
do.
procreating. You're certainly not procreating if you're with another man.
Right. So what's the problem?
What's the problem? It's not really a marriage.
Okay, so marriage is about procreation.
It's a sexual relationship. Well,
So
traditionally, marriage has
marriage is
been
about
about yes, procreation.
what if
Absolutely.
what if someone, maybe hypothetically, they were trying to immigrate to another country, and in that process they had a doctor perform a hysterectomy on them and remove their uterus, and they
Well,
could no
you're
longer
referring to an anomaly now, because the majority of
right,
women are able to
right,
procreate, right? So
right. Yeah, so
you're
like
you're
can they
giving an
no longer
anomaly
get
as
married?
the
Well,
example
you
instead
said
of
a
the
man
norm.
and a man can't marry because of procreation. So can a woman who can't procreate marry a man, or does that
Again,
mean
you're
like
using an
on
anomaly to support your
No,
argument
I'm
here.
just wondering. I
Okay,
just want
okay. So statistically, how many men to men sexual relationships can result in procreation?
well,
Statistically speaking.
statistically, how many women with
Statistically
no uterus?
speaking, how
Uh,
many man on man sexual relationships result in
you seem like you're getting a
procreation?
little upset here.
No, I'm asking a question.
Statistically 0.
because
But I
you're
would
making
say,
an argument based on less than 1% of women and then comparing it to 100% of men.
yeah, that's why I'm wondering. Like, is it about men specifically, or is it about the procreation? Like, now you're balancing. You say, who
Well, it
cares
would
about
be
the
about
procreation?
homosexually specifically. I would say the
Yeah,
same
like
thing with two women.
you hate
The
gay
same
people.
thing with two women. Two
So
women
it
aren't
has
going to
nothing to do with
procreate,
procreation.
right?
It has nothing to do with
There's no
procreation.
marriage there. There's no marriage
Right.
between two
So,
women.
but just to
Just
be
like there's
clear, it
no
has
marriage
nothing
between
to do
two
with
men.
procreation.
It
So it
has
has
everything
nothing
to
to
do
do
with
with
procreation. Like I said, two
Well, you
women
just
aren't going to
said
procreate.
Well, yeah, but you said that a woman who can't procreate
Oh
can
my
still
God.
marry. So I'm just trying to get this. It's not really a consistent
Oh my
worldview, but
God.
well, let's agree to
Oh
disagree.
my
Let's
God.
get
Jeez.
one last question here.
That was ridiculous.
I'm so
Oh,
sorry for
that
putting
was
you
some
through
serious jumping through hoops. Like I said,
jumping
making a
through.
less than 1% argument
Right,
and
I just
comparing
jumped
it to
through.
a
Right.
100%
Yep.
argument there.
Well, you said that again. You said, just to
Jumping
clarify,
through
you
some
said that
hoops.
the inability to procreate is the reason why same-sex couples should get married. Right. That's what you said. And if that were the case, then other people would be classified in that. If you were anti,
So, okay. So, in this
non-procreatable
system that you're
couple,
laying out for me, it would account for less than 1% of
would it? I'm
married
asking you. It's your
heterosexual
system.
couples.
It's your system. I'm asking you to describe.
Okay, I'm willing to sacrifice less than 1% of
Okay.
married
Good. That's what I was
heterosexuals
wondering.
to
Okay.
stop 100% of
All
the
right.
other thing. Yes.
All right.
Yes,
Thank
I
you. So
am.
you would ban women maybe that tried to immigrate to the United States and got put into a concentration camp and had their uterus
They wouldn't be
removed.
allowed to be married. No.
They wouldn't. Okay.
If I have
All
to
right.
make that choice in your
Okay.
system, if I
Thank you
have
for
to
that.
make
All
that
right. So this
choice
is your
under the
system.
guise that you're presenting it, then
This is your
yes, I
system,
would be
buddy.
willing to
I'm
sacrifice
giving you the
that
wheels of
less than
Minecraft.
1% women.
All right, awesome. Okay,
Well,
so
if you wanted me to
my
say
last.
it, let me say it and quit speaking over me. And
All right,
I
you
thought I
got
already
this.
did, but
Floor is yours.
yes, based on the scenario you're presenting, I am willing to say that this less than 1% of women aren't legitimately married. Based
Okay.
on the scenario that you presented, trying to say that, oh, homosexuals, this and that. Right. Yes. Even though, like I said, when it
So
comes to
it's
homosexual
procreation.
marriage, 100% of the marriages do not result in procreation.
Right. Okay.
100%.
Okay.
Versus less than 1%.
So I got another problem. I got another question. What's your problem with transgender people? What about people existing.
Well, here you go. Should you use the women's restroom?
Absolutely.
There's one of my problems right there. I don't want you in the restroom with an 8-year-old girl. Hell no.
Okay.
Hell no. Just like I don't want any other man in the restroom with an 8-year-old girl. Okay. I don't want a 40-year-old man in the restroom with an 8-year-old girl. I don't want a 20-year-old man in the restroom with an 8-year-old girl. I don't want a man that claims to be a woman in the restroom with an 8-year-old girl.
Great. I'm excited that you feel so.
So it's not just a trans thing. I don't want any men in the restroom with an 8-year-old girl.
You're anti-men? You're anti-man? Is that what this is?
I'm anti-men being in the restroom with an 8-year-old girl.
No, yes. So women can be in the restroom with an 8-year-old boy?
I'm against that too.
Oh, what if they're their mother?
They have no business being in the restroom. Okay, handicap? Are we talking about a handicapped kid or something here?
We're talking about, like, say you have a mother and they want to go to the bathroom, but they don't feel comfortable leaving you out in a public space by yourself, and they want to bring you into the bathroom.
If you're in a really shitty neighborhood, I suppose, if you're in a really shitty neighborhood and a mother needs to go in the bathroom with her child,
I'm
okay with that, right?
If a father needed to do that.
Yeah, if a father is in a neighborhood in a really shitty neighborhood with his small daughter, then yeah, he should be able to go in the bathroom with his small daughter in this super shitty neighborhood, right? Okay. Right. Again, an extreme example having to be used to justify some ass backwards logic, right?
And you want your worldview to be on others. You want to you want to preach and have other people follow you. So I'm wondering, in this world that you aspire to be in, I'm wondering what things would be like.
I did a debate with a Yenta that did this once with me. She totally changed her position on a lot of stuff like a couple months later. It's funny. The extreme examples to justify your narrative thing.
I'm happy for you that you had that.
It's really funny.
Happy. But yeah, like, I'm just wondering, if you're willing to throw out 1% of women, that's a couple million women, you know?
Well, I could get rid of 100% of this fake marriage by, saying this less than 1% of women aren't married. If that's the compromise I have to make, then I would make that compromise.
If you are willing to compromise on human values and lives, you are willing to deny people rights just in your agenda, in the pursuit of your agenda. You don't have any loyalty to anybody.
I don't, huh?
And as a result,
why do I have no loyalty to anybody?
Well, you're just saying, if you don't fall into my specific category I created myself, that you don't deserve marriage.
I didn't create this category. This category existed long before I existed.
Okay, well, you're aspiring to pass the torch along to its...
You're talking about laws that were just enacted a couple years ago as if they have been written in Sanskrit fucking 10,000 years ago or something, which is not the case at all. Gay marriage isn't some kind of thing that's been around for 500 years.
But anyway, I had fun. Legal. I thought this was great. I got to learn a lot about what goes on in that brain of yours. So thank you. I hope you have a fun time at your real job tomorrow. Are you working tomorrow?
Yes, I am.
How often do you work a week?
5 days.
5 days. I'm great. Do you get weekends off?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool. All right, so I hope again, tomorrow's going to be a big day, right? You got a lot planned. Hopefully that goes well. Hopefully, you tell your wife and kids or whatever that you trolled the tranny for an hour, and hopefully you tell your little Discord server how well it went. But for the record, I did not run away from your debate. I'm here. We did it.
Yeah, the record, you didn't. Right. For the record, you didn't. Right. Like, here you go. Like, let me ask you this.
Right.
Before you get out of here. Like, how open are people that you consider right-wing in talking with you? Do you actually try to have conversations like this with them?
I always do.
How open are they? Do they shut you down? Do they block you instantly? Stuff like that?
A lot of the time, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Almost every one of my shows, I have someone come in and say, like, I want to debate you. And then I ask them to, like, add me on Discord or, hey, give me your phone number. And they seemingly just forget how to use a phone.
That might be some of the trolls, honestly. Like, some people looked into you before I did this, and yeah, apparently you are on Kiwi Farms and a couple other places where people like to post stuff to go troll people.
Right.
So apparently you are. I would say most of that is honestly trolls, just like straight up trolls.
Right, and trolls have no political ideology?
Well, I would say they're right wing. Yeah.
Okay, so
yeah,
right wing people not wanting.
But they're like, these are kids. They're kids, like 15-year-olds. All these 4chaners are.
There's a lot of people I know a few of them. Some of them I've gotten on the line, and let me tell you, you'd be surprised how old they are. But anyway, had a great time. Again, I'm here, so you can't say I didn't show up. So I'm crazy. You knew I was crazy going into
Yeah.
this.
Oh
I'm
yeah.
a fucking lunatic, right?
Right.
And so the only point you really had was that I wouldn't debate you and I'd run away. I'm here. I
Hmm.
did it. I tried. You got to give me that one.
I wouldn't
It
say it's
wasn't
the only
the
point I
greatest.
had, but like
Well,
you do have the point that you showed up. I mean, nobody can take
yeah,
that away from you.
I got the participation trophy,
Yeah.
right?
Yes. Yes.
It-
Very well
See?
said. Very well said.
Exactly. I'm glad you got a kick out of that. But anyway, it's past my bedtime, so I'll catch you later, buddy.
All
If you
right.
decide, are you going to post this? Were you recording this?
Yeah, I'm recording it. I'm not going to
Okay,
post
and
it
you're going to
tonight. I'm
post
about
this?
to go to bed. I'll probably
All right,
post it
me too. I'm
tomorrow or
going to
something.
post this in the morning. All right. Let me know how it goes. Keep in touch.